Hello chess lovers, Suren here, and in this video I would like to share with you another interesting game played by Mikhail Tal against David Bronstein. In 1982, in the Georgian capital Tbilisi, Bronstein and Tal met in an unusual exhibition match where they played 8 games against each other simultaneously. Previously in 1978 in Yerevan, Bronstein had already played a simul on 4 boards against Rafael Vaganyan, which had ended in a draw. But this time, as mentioned above, they faced on 8 boards, which is a very tiring job. Here is how Tal comments that encounter. At first I felt uneasy about playing against 8 Bronsteins at once, but then I consoled myself with the thought that David would be fighting against 8 Tals. All the games were first-rate games and Tal won the match with a score of 5-3. He won 4 games, drew 2 and lost 2. But before starting our game, if you are new to my channel, consider subscribing in order not to miss my future uploads. And let's get started with our game and see what happened on the board. Tal opened up with e4 and Bronstein responded with e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. We have the real Lopez and a very aggressive response by Bronstein f5. He goes for Schliemann defense, or this is also called Yanish gambit. Knight c3, this is the most common response to f5 and the one that presents black with the most difficulties. F takes e4, knight takes e4. Here black has several choices, can go for example for d5, a move which we have already seen a few days ago in a game played between Fischer and Matulovic, or can play bishop e7 or knight f6. In our game we have knight f6. Now comes queen e2, queen e7, we see the exchange of knights on f6 and white castles kingside. a6, bishop a4, b5. Meanwhile, black is advancing on the queen side, and then we have knight a5. Black wants to get rid of white's light squared bishop, which later can create problems for black in case black wants to castle kingside. d4. As black king is still in the center, Tal wants to open up the position. Meanwhile, we have knight takes b3, a takes b3, bishop g7, and d takes e5, f takes e5. Here we have bishop g5, queen e6, and knight takes e5. Tal is simply winning a pawn. Here black castled kingside, but let's take a look at other variations as well. What if, for example, queen takes e5? Then in this case black can face serious problems after queen h5 check. If king f8, then rook e8 and white is winning. Or after knight takes e5. If move like bishop takes e5, then this time rook e1 is coming. And then queen h5 check, and then after the exchange of queens on g6, white can play f4, win back the sacrificed piece, and white even has better chances. But that's why in our game after knight takes e5 we have castling kingside. Now comes rook e1, bishop b7, f4 and rook e8. Here is how Bronstein comments this position. Black has lost a pawn, but his bishop is very active on a8 h1 diagonal. However, with his queen move, white is the first to start the attack. Here we have queen d2, white is targeting the pawn on d7 and d6, which is a total mistake, after which black's position collapses quickly. Instead of playing d6, it was better to remove this active knight from e5. Now if rook takes e5, then queen b6 check is coming, and then black can go for the exchange of rooks. Or if a move like f takes e5, then rook f1 check followed by queen takes e5. But in our game after queen d2 we have d6. Now comes knight c6, and after queen f7 Tal played rook e7, although he could also play knight e7 check and then play f5, f6. But in our game we have rook e7, which is also a strong move. Here we have the exchange of rooks on e7, king h8 and f5. This f-pawn is marching forward in order to strengthen the knight on e7. Bishop f6. Black wants to remove this dark squared bishop, which is supporting the knight. We have the exchange of bishops and rook e1. Still Tal wants to keep his knight on that active square and at the same time wants to penetrate black's camp. Rook f7 was played and rook e6. Queen takes b2 and knight g6 check. A very beautiful move by Tal. The knight is untouchable because of this queen h6 check. If king g8 then rook e8 check followed by rook takes f8 checkmate. That's why Bronstein didn't dare to accept the sacrifice and played king g7. Already black wants to win this knight. That's why Tal played knight h4, but this is an inaccurate move. Instead of playing knight h4, it was better to play knight e7 with the threat of queen g5, queen g8 checkmate. But in our game we have knight h4, which allows black to defend. Right now the threat is queen h6 check followed by rook e8. White is creating mating threats. That's why Bronstein played king f8, queen g5 and queen d4 check. Not the best continuation. A move which could allow black to equalize the game was queen b1 check. If king f2 then queen takes c2 check and then queen c3. All the essential squares are covered and white can't do anything. The players have equal chances, but Bronstein played queen d4 check. Here comes king f1 and another mistake by Bronstein, bishop c8, which allows white to checkmate black king in 4 moves. Instead, it was better to announce a check from d1. If rook e1 then queen d4, and still, although white stands much better, but black can fight back. But in our game we have bishop c8, and now you can pause the video and try to find the mating line for white. Ready? In here again Tal went for this devastating knight g6 check. H takes g6 was played. Well, if king g8 then knight d7 check is coming followed by queen g8 checkmate. That's why Bronstein accepted the piece sacrifice, but after queen d8 check he resigned. If king g7 then rook takes g6 check is coming and then queen g8 checkmate. That's why, as I've already mentioned, after queen d8 check we have a resignation. Looks like that in the end Bronstein was very tired. He made several mistakes and Mikhail Tal managed to use his chance and with a beautiful knight sacrifice finished up his opponent. In the end, as usual, would like to ask you to solve a chess puzzle. Please take a look at this position and try to find the winning move for black. I will wait for your answer in the comment section. It's black to move. Thanks for watching. Here are more suggestions for you. Consider checking them out as well, and I will see you in my next video.